Did you know that Australia once declared war on birds and unbelievably lost? It may sound like an urban legend or a ridiculous internet meme, but this is 100% true. And it's one of the strangest chapters in modern history. Buckle up, because you're about to hear the full, absurd, yet fascinating story of what is known as the Great Emu War of 1932. First, let's set the stage. It was the early 1930s, a time of global economic depression. Australia, like many countries, was facing unemployment, poverty, and general instability. For many Australian farmers, life was particularly harsh. They had turned to cultivating wheat to keep their farms afloat amidst government promises of subsidies. This, however, was where wildlife met agriculture in the most unexpected and chaotic way. Enter the emus. Standing nearly 6 feet tall and running at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, the emu is a flightless bird native to Australia. It's majestic, sure, but also a resilient and determined creature. In 1932, after migrating inland during their seasonal movement, over 20,000 emus descended upon Western Australia's agricultural fields. To say they devastated the crops would be an understatement. Wheat fields were flattened as if a plague had swept through. Farmers, already desperate, found their livelihoods under siege, not from locusts or drought, but from birds. Frustrated and overwhelmed, the farmers sought help from the Australian government. And what was the response? Enter Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery. Think about this. Instead of coming up with traditional methods to control the birds, the government decided to deploy the army. Yes, military personnel armed with heavy-duty machine guns were sent to Western Australia to fight birds in what became an unintentional comedy of errors. The mission officially began in November 1932, and it wasn't long before things spiraled into absurdity. The first planned attack involved herding a sizable group of emus into an ambush. Sounds clever in theory, right? Except emus are not ordinary prey. As the soldiers fired their machine guns, the emus scattered with lightning speed. The bullets mostly missed, and those few emus that were hit, their feathered bodies proved incredibly durable. Turns out, emus are not just fast, but also surprisingly tough. Undeterred, the soldiers regrouped and changed strategies. But time after time, the emus outmaneuvered them. To add insult to injury, some emus were even seen mocking their human adversaries, dodging bullets and then casually wandering away with no sense of urgency. You might be wondering, how can a group of trained soldiers armed with modern weaponry lose to large flightless birds? The answer lies in nature's engineering. Emus move in unpredictable patterns and can swiftly change direction, making them exceptionally hard targets to hit. Moreover, they travel in smaller groups, so even when the soldiers managed to take down 1 or 2 birds, the majority would escape. One particularly disastrous incident involved a mounted truck equipped with a machine gun. Sounds like something out of an action movie, doesn't it? Except the terrain was so bumpy, the gunner couldn't aim properly, and the truck itself broke down. The emus? They simply ran off, unbothered and unharmed. As the operation wore on, it became increasingly clear that the emus were, for lack of a better word, winning. After several weeks of failed attempts, over 2,500 rounds of ammunition had been fired, and fewer than 1,000 emus had been effectively killed. That's a very unimpressive success rate, especially considering the resources and manpower involved. By December 1932, the operation was deemed a failure, and cooled off. The military quietly retreated, leaving the emus to roam freely over the farmlands. News of the debacle spread, and the Australian press had a field day, dubbing the incident the Emu War, a title that, frankly, sounds too ridiculous to be real, but is now immortalized in history. But the story doesn't end there. You see, the defeat was a turning point, one that forced Australia to reconsider its approach to pest control. Instead of relying on brute force, a bounty system was implemented, encouraging hunters to kill emus in exchange for cash. Even later, barriers like fences were constructed to keep the emus out of agricultural areas. These measures proved far more effective and far less humiliating than the ill-fated military campaign. Now, let's take a step back and reflect. The Great Emu War remains a source of humor and intrigue to this day, often used as a cautionary tale about hubris and underestimating nature. It's a reminder that sometimes solutions require creativity and adaptability, not sheer force. And if there's one thing this story proves, it's that the natural world, when challenged, can be astonishingly resilient. So, why does this quirky piece of history matter? Well, it offers a glimpse into what happens when human plans collide with nature in unexpected ways. It's both a comedic farce and a sobering reality check, illustrating the limits of human control over the environment. Most importantly, it's a story that keeps us entertained and, at the same time, humble. The Great Emu War might have ended nearly a century ago, but its legacy continues to live on, not just in history books, but also in popular culture. It's been featured in songs, memes, and even video games, proving that truth really can be stranger than fiction. And now, whenever you see an emu, you'll remember that, once upon a time, these unassuming birds outsmarted an entire military operation. To the emus, we tip our hats. They didn't just survive, they triumphed. And while the soldiers may have retreated in defeat, they left behind a story so bizarre, so unbelievable, and yet so wonderfully human that it continues to captivate people to this day. So next time you're feeling defeated by a challenge, big or small, just remember the Great Emu War. If nothing else, it's proof that sometimes the underdog, or in this case, the underbird, wins in the end.